I'm going to start with the heaviest first because the guys always give me a really hard time about doing super sad stories and leaving a big, black cloud hanging over the rest of the show. So let's talk about the hardest one of the bunch first, and then we'll get into a little bit more light news for the week. I think it's really important, though, because I've seen several posts over the last probably year of dentists who commit suicide or take their own lives, periodically through different forums. Dental Nachos has posted several that have been out there that, you wish as a colleague you could lean in and have loved on to maybe keep them from making that choice. But an interesting study that just came out from the Community Dentistry and Oral Epidemiology Journal noted that nearly 20% of dental professionals have considered suicide in the last year. So that's a pretty significant statistic, that certainly we need to be paying attention to and ensuring that we're providing mental health and support to those who need it. But I would also, this is going to be my my plug or opportunity to speak my mind for a moment, as this is more of an editorial instead of a factual news program. But to maybe stop stigmatizing a lot of the different ways in which people practice and really created an open community where folks can be in corporate dentistry, can be in private practice dentistry, can be PPO and fee for service, can only treat children, only treat adults, can really build the life that they envision for themselves that is the perfect balance for them between work and their personal family life. And so when we can start breaking down some of those barriers to create a more welcoming environment to practice and be the kind of dentist that you feel most comfortable being, I really hope and pray that that will be one step towards helping some of the mental health issues that we certainly see in our profession and continue. So we'll leave it at that. Let's move to a little bit of a lighter story. In fact, I had to read this story about 4 times in order to be able to bring it to you tonight because I just couldn't believe it. Also couldn't quite get my mind wrapped around it. But there is a dentist in Tampa who is trying to compete for the world record for being able to pull his 2,000-pound car, we'll mention it's a Lotus, with his teeth, 30 meters in a specific amount of speed. So he can be the fastest to pull it. The record is just over 18 seconds. So he's working towards that. He does, in fact, have a solid titanium jaw or metal, steel jaw. And he has other oddities as well. He's been featured in Ripley's Believe It or Not on multiple occasions. He has a complete denture made of shark teeth and one with a cyanide pill, just like you found in the James Bond movie. So this is an interesting fellow. We'll be tracking his progress. If he beats the world record, that certainly will be newsworthy. But here is an example of dentists finding ways to unload the pressure of our daily activities and things that they enjoy. But certainly an interesting activity and hobby, slightly different from gardening and baking and racing cars, which are some of the other things that we hear dentists doing. Another interesting story actually came out of Texas. So I thought Chad might find this one interesting. A whistleblower has now, the Texas dentist has now been charged to pay back $15,000 in a whistleblower case on COVID-19 safety concerns the employee raised and was terminated or discriminated amongst their fellow colleagues. And the case has been settled, and that employee has won a $15,000 settlement. So just remember when we're making decisions in our practice to try to make them non-discriminatory and wide encompassing so that in the event that those folks leave your practice, that it may not financially come back to bite you. Here's an interesting one. I'm curious to know when we get back with the guys how much they received from the tooth fairy when they lost a tooth back in their youth, assuming that they're no longer that young. An interesting statistic has come out. There's a group, the original Tooth Fairy poll, which started its data collection back in 1998, has noted that the cost for a tooth has jumped 16%. So Tooth Fairy is no stranger to the rate of inflation as well. We are now up to an average cost of $6.23 per tooth. That is up from $5.36 in 2022. Now, I have to tell you that the South, which all three of us happen to technically live in, had the highest value per tooth at $6.59, while the West was second at $6.25, the Northeast at $6.14, and the Midwest coming in at a solid $5.63. Still seems crazy high, but there you are. In case you're wanting to calibrate, am I in line with the current tooth fairy rates? Now you're in the know. And the last story for tonight, the ADA Standards Committee has been incredibly busy over the last year working on several initiatives. They just released their white paper on AI. So if you have any interest, it's a pretty heavy paper. They have been very intentional about collecting, evaluating, and determining AI's role in dentistry. And so it's a pretty encompassing paper on AI and AI standards in the dental field. So I would encourage you to read it. I certainly would encourage you to review it if you're considering bringing AI into your practice or wanting to be more involved in that area. But in addition, the ADA Standards Committee is looking to start another group, a subcommittee within their group, looking at standardizing how we obtain information about dental benefits from insurance providers. I actually happen to think this is a great idea to be able to reach out to providers or insurance carriers and get a consolidated piece of information about benefit in one concise form without having to ask each individual question, or maybe getting certain information from certain carriers and being unable to obtain the same types of information from others. So they're looking at standardizing our ability to verify and quantify benefits for patients, and especially in light of the new laws out there that are for surprise billing and ensuring that you're not surprising patients with bills over $400. It only seems fair that we should be standardizing how practices are able to get their benefit information and provide good faith estimates to their patients. And with that, that's the news.